Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got a story that's anything but ordinary. A story about chance, temptation, and crossing lines we never thought we would. Picture this. A plumber shows up for what should have been just another routine job, fixing a water heater for a client. But what happens next? Well, it's far from routine. What starts as polite conversation between two strangers quickly turns into something much more unexpected, a connection neither of them saw coming. It's a story about blurred boundaries, a magnetic pull, and the emotional whirlwind that follows when professional lines are crossed. This one's got a little bit of everything: intrigue, vulnerability, and just enough tension to keep you hooked. So sit back, relax, and let me take you into the world of the plumber and the client. The day began like any other. I was on my usual route, ticking off service calls from the clipboard perched on the passenger seat of my truck. Fixing a malfunctioning water heater wasn't exactly glamorous work, but it was honest, and I prided myself on doing it well. When I pulled into the driveway of a modest suburban home, I expected this call to be like the hundreds of others I'd handled before. I couldn't have been more wrong. The door swung open to reveal a young man, probably in his late 20s, with an easy smile and a relaxed demeanor. He introduced himself as Noah. Something about his calm confidence immediately struck me. I often met clients who were rushed or irritated by the inconvenience of a repair, but Noah radiated warmth, like he genuinely appreciated my being there. He led me through the house to the utility closet. As I assessed the water heater, he stood nearby, leaning casually against the doorframe. We began chatting, initially about mundane topics: the weather, local sports, the quirks of older plumbing systems. But before long, the conversation took a deeper turn. Noah had a way of listening that felt rare. He asked thoughtful questions, his gaze unwavering, and his laughter came easily, filling the small, dim space. I found myself sharing more than I usually would with a client. Stories about my years in the trade, my love for fixing things, even a few anecdotes about my childhood. In turn, he told me about his work as a graphic designer, his passion for art, and his dreams of traveling the world. There was a spark, subtle but undeniable, that danced between us as we talked. It was nothing overt, just small moments. The way our eyes lingered a second too long, the way his hand brushed mine when he passed me a tool. I tried to focus on the task at hand, but the air in the room felt charged, alive with a tension I couldn't ignore. By the time I finished repairing the heater, the sun had dipped low in the sky, casting the room in soft, golden light. Noah offered me a glass of water before I left, and we ended up sitting at his kitchen table, continuing the conversation as if neither of us wanted it to end. When it was finally time for me to go, there was a pause, a moment of hesitation as we stood by the door. His smile softened, and for a fleeting second, I wondered if he felt it too, the inexplicable pull between us. But nothing was said, and I left, the encounter replaying in my mind as I drove away. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the memory of that afternoon. It wasn't just Noah's easy charm or his striking features that lingered in my mind. It was the connection we'd shared, the way he seemed to see right through me. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced in years, one that was both exhilarating and unsettling. When my phone buzzed with an unexpected number a few days later, my heart skipped a beat. "Hey, it's Noah," the voice on the other end said, light and familiar. "I was wondering if you could come back. There's something else I think needs fixing." I told myself it was just another job, but as I pulled into his driveway again, I couldn't ignore the flutter of anticipation in my chest. He greeted me at the door with that same warm smile, and for a moment, it felt like no time had passed. This time, the issue was a leaky faucet in the bathroom. As I worked, Noah hovered nearby, his presence both distracting and comforting. Our conversation picked up where it had left off, flowing effortlessly as if we were old friends. But beneath the words, there was an undercurrent of something unspoken, a magnetic pull that seemed to grow stronger with each passing minute. At one point, I glanced up from the sink to find him watching me, his expression unreadable but intense. The moment stretched, heavy with meaning, until he broke the silence with a nervous laugh. "Sorry," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean to stare." I smiled, brushing it off, but my pulse quickened. The line between professional and personal was blurring, and I wasn't sure how to navigate it. As the weeks went on, Noah found more reasons to call me back. Another leak, a loose pipe, a faulty showerhead. Each visit felt less like a service call and more like an excuse to see each other. Our conversations grew deeper, more personal. He told me about his past relationships, his fears, his hopes for the future. I listened, captivated by his honesty and vulnerability. It wasn't long before our interactions began to shift in subtle but undeniable ways. A lingering glance, a touch that lasted a moment too long, the way his voice softened when he said my name. The tension between us was no longer just in my imagination. It was real, tangible, and impossible to ignore. One evening, after fixing a stubborn clog in his kitchen sink, Noah invited me to stay for dinner. We sat across from each other at his small table, the flicker of a single candle casting shadows on the walls. The conversation flowed as easily as ever, but there was a new intensity in the air, a sense that we were both teetering on the edge of something we couldn't take back. As the night wore on, the distance between us seemed to close. When our hands brushed while clearing the table, neither of us pulled away. He looked up at me, his eyes searching mine, and in that moment, the unspoken became undeniable. "I don't know what this is," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I can't ignore it anymore." Neither could I. The connection we shared was exhilarating, but it wasn't without its challenges. I wrestled with guilt and uncertainty, torn between the life I had built and the possibility of something new and uncharted. Noah, too, struggled with the weight of our situation, questioning what it meant for him and what it might cost us both. Despite the complications, our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We found solace in each other, a refuge from the chaos of the outside world. Our moments together were filled with laughter, shared secrets, and quiet understanding. But secrets have a way of catching up with you, and I knew we couldn't keep ours hidden forever. The line we had crossed was one that couldn't be undone, and the consequences would eventually come to light. For now, though, we chose to live in the moment, savoring the connection we had found against all odds. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't easy, but it was real. And sometimes that's enough.